Let's begin with a blank canvas. We often talk about optimizing an existing page, but how do you start from scratch? How do you move from a blank page to a landing page? More, how do you move from an idea in your mind to a yes in the customer's mind? Where do you begin? The question is essential. Consider these real-world examples. You might have created and settled for this landing page. But if you thought more deeply and created this page instead, you would have achieved an increase of 44%. Now, that's not a number. That's real money that impacts lives. You might have created this page, but if you thought more deeply and created this page instead, you would have achieved an increase of 61%. What about this page? You might have started here. It looks good. But if you'd thought more deeply, if you'd have modeled your customer's mind, you might have created this page and achieved an 83.7% increase. What about this? You could have created this page. But again, if you thought more deeply, if you had a method, a framework, you might have created this page and achieved 87.4%. So, what can you do to get your page right from the beginning? To answer that question, we need to discover 3 essential keys. We need a method. We need a way forward. And by the way, I've created a lot of these poor landing pages. I work in a lab. We ran 20,000 variations in our experiments. And I'm embarrassed by the things I've had to learn along the way. But ultimately, we've been able to craft this learning into something that you can learn yourself and you can repeat over and over again. My name is Flint. You're watching a McLab's Fast Class. Our goal is to densify 40 minutes of powerful learning into a very short video of less than 10 minutes. This is part of a new series. Now, here's the first key. Number 1, you need to discipline your activity. In the trade, we call it praxis. And to do that, what you really need is a cognitive roadmap. This is a master infographic for all that we're going to teach. But it's more than that. It is a way to think. It is a linear and yet systematic approach to overcoming the obstacles, to seeing through the eyes of your prospective customer. In the coming weeks, we're going to teach through every phase of this graphic. My goal is to help you completely re-envision yourself and your work. Which brings me to point 2. You need to understand the 4 elements of marketing. This is like physics. There are only 4. There is the sender, and there is the receiver. That's the marketer, and let's say the prospect. There is the message, and there is the means. There's nothing else. The means would be your channel. The message is the essence of your offer, the value proposition. All of marketing can be understood this way. And this is not something technical or abstract or academic. When you can simplify marketing into these 4 areas, you're able to think about your work and you're able to prioritize, which is the key to the next point. You need to prioritize your mental energy, psychology. So we've touched praxis, physics, and psychology in a simple way, but this is where it becomes more important. Effective marketing does not start with the offer. It doesn't start with a channel. It certainly doesn't start with a brand. It does not even start with the customer. It starts with the sender. And that is you, the marketer/entrepreneur. The key to transformative marketing is a transformed marketer. And so you have to think about yourself first. You have to prepare yourself first. You have to empty yourself of your own self-interest and climb into the skin of the person you're trying to reach. You have to think through their perspective, see through their eyes. And that leads me to 6 essential questions, 6 critical questions that you've got to ask before you even start to design your page. So, here they are. Think about them with me. You can get these in a checklist when we're done. And we'll be teaching through them in more depth as the weeks unfold. But here's the first. Number one, am I just blindly copying someone else's layout? Or have I developed a sequence thought logic that supports my call to action? This is a critical question. Too often, we simply try things on the page. We stack one module on top of another. But there should be a rationale for how we approach this. It is a conversation and it should flow. We do not optimize web pages. We optimize for the sequence of thought. Brings me to number two. Have I forced myself to justify every intended page element, or am I compromising my highest priority? Too often, our campaigns and their messaging are dominated by a social dynamic rather than a science dynamic. Our collateral suffers a design by committee process and thus speaks with the disjointed voice of compromise. There is a better way. Somebody said a camel is a horse put together by a committee. Indeed, many of our web pages are like camels. In fact, from our experimentation, we've discovered that 70% of the page's energy should be focused on a single objective. You can use the other 20 or 30% to get people to sign up for X or Y, but when you start to divide the page's energy into this sort of compromise, you dilute your impact and thus your results. We'll talk about this in more depth in the podcast that goes with this class. But let's keep going. Number three, do I know who I cannot serve well with this page so I can focus on understanding those who I can serve well? This is vital. You can't even begin to craft your value proposition until you have discovered who you serve best. Again, more on this in the upcoming podcast. Number four, have I started just trying out an idea, or do I have a well-defined theory that I can test? Before the design should be a wireframe. Before the wireframe should be a hypothesis. That hypothesis has 4 parts. We're going to teach you how to craft that in the upcoming classes. Number 5, am I just assuming the voice of this page, or do I know how and why I'm going to talk in this style? Listen, your page is a personality. People don't buy from websites. People buy from people. And if your page is talking in the wrong way, with the wrong style, if the personified version of your offer has not been carefully dialed in, you're going to compromise your conversion. Which brings me to 6. Am I still seeing the page through my selfish interest? Or have I positioned myself to focus on the customer's interest first? That question is perhaps the most important of all. And if we don't think it through, if we don't challenge ourselves, and if we don't have tools, frameworks to reposition ourselves in our thinking, we encounter the obstacle of our own blind spot. Now, these 6 questions form a criterion. If you use them as a checklist to help your team think through the preparation phase of page design, you're going to see a whole different level of results, the kinds of results we saw at the beginning. We'll be teaching through all of these in upcoming classes, but you can use them right now in your work. And if you or your team needs further help getting results like we've discussed, email me. I will try to answer you personally. If you'd like to get a copy of the master infographic or get a copy of this 6-question checklist, just visit here. It's all free. I want to thank you for investing your time. I want to thank you for your trust.